We get to it. I feel like I've seen you more this summer than I did during the whole school year. Sorry. Something fun. I think this is fun. I'm still having very little learning. We are good. Yeah. All right, we ready?
We're ready.
All right, so it is 5:01. We'll call to order. Any adjustments to the agenda?
No.
All right, any public comment? Although it says items not on the agenda, but in general, any public comments in general? I'm gonna have it kind of be a little bit open discussion anyway, just because it is a big deal. So at that point, you guys can all chime in, ask questions at the time we're talking, discuss boiler replacement and whatnot. Anybody online? No.
Nobody.
All right. We will move on from public comment to discussion of boiler replacement and energy conservation project. Come on.
So I'm going to let Justin sort of lead this conversation since he's been involved since the beginning, and I think has the clearest understanding of what options are in front of us from EMC.
All right.
Thank you. So just a quick review. Last year, actually it was in fall, we had a boiler room failure. We had one of our two boilers failed. We had two different hot water pump circulars. They both failed also. And we have an aging Jace, which is pushing grain up there. It's the mechanism that controls all the mechanics. And so as part of our long-term strategic building plan, we knew we had to address our boiler plant issues. And so we ended up hiring on the recommendation of the Facilities and Maintenance Committee an ESCO, so an energy savings company, and they EMC. Yes.
That's false. We didn't put on everything.
We made a recommendation to go to the EMC for the ESCO.
Did not happen.
We did make a recommendation to go to an ESCO.
It did not happen.
Okay.
No meeting I was at with that.
Well, we reviewed with the ESCO with consequence, you remember that, but situation, right? Okay, what's that?
There was one meeting where we talked about some of that stuff, but there, no meeting that I attended was there any recommendation to move forward.
You weren't
The
there,
meeting that-
you were there, Alan was there, I was there, and we.
That was not for, so I'm looking up for.
And was you there. Yeah, I have to review the minutes.
There were
Okay.
there.
Good, I have to go back and review this.
I just wanted that preface that it was all that we did not. That also learned that was then inferred that my name was used as that we recommended this going forward. And that is not, I did not, and to my knowledge, there was no quorum, there was no minutes that I've seen stating that that recommendation was made by the facilities committee.
So
I'll have to
need
go
a
back
forum.
and review that, and we might be right. And I recommend here, and I will actually say we at least reviewed it with the same people, and another secret count. I presented that to the school committee did agree to hire the ESCO. I reviewed.
I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't under false pretense under that.
Didn't intend to see it, but.
Just wanted
And it
that
wouldn't
from-
change our,
Yeah, I didn't,
we reviewed it.
I hear you about that, I'm not saying you're wrong, I wasn't intending to see that, that was my recollection. We hired the ESCO, EMC is the ESCO, school committee agreed to do that. And we hired a contract, we have signed a contract with them. They did an audit of the building based on our plan and the information that I gave them, along with some of the information that we generated from the Facilities Maintenance Committee. And they've generated a number of options for us to consider for them to renovate the building, including the building. So what you have in front of you are 6 different pricing options. So it's kind of a choose, not exactly a choose your own adventure, because there are commonalities on every single list, so you'll see like there's the boiler room, boiler plant renovation on every single list. And what I can do is go through and tell you the differences between each list, does that sound okay?
Mhm.
Alright, so you'll see there in descending order, the number one, option one, is the most expensive list, and what it covers is listed below, and that's in terms of finances. The intention would be to finance this through a lease purchase program, tax-free lease purchase program, that had a term of 17 years. They've estimated a 4.9% interest rate. So if we look at number one, that list of measures that they would remedy, includes the boiler room, and I know that their current proposal is that it would be 2 propane gas boilers. And that's what's encompassed in one. Parking lot paving, and that needs to be done, or that would need to be done in relation to boiler room, because they have to run lines underneath the parking lots, the south parking lot, under the 2 driveways, the 3 1,000 gallon propane tanks that we need to sink underground.
I have a question pertaining to that.
Mhm.
What changed in their initial plan, because the plan that I saw in the unofficial didn't have it go anywhere near the road.
They did some further research, and there are all kinds of lines running where they had before. So they did some dig safe, and it wasn't possible to sink tanks on a corner by the white fence in area.
Or in the white fence area, that is considered for that. Off where everything.
I don't know, I know they looked into that, and I don't know the reason why, but also not doable. I mean, we're talking engineers.
But that's nothing we have a say in, they're gonna do it. Regardless of what anybody thinks or wants.
The school committee did approve to hire this group because they have engineers. And I think we do also want public weigh-in, so absolutely, it's great to have your voice heard, and you should say, both in the facilities meetings and here publicly, how you feel. But also, we hired this group in part because they bring in experts and engineers to look at this stuff. So those considerations are going into these options. And so I would both trust that there's due diligence that's been done, and also if you feel like this doesn't make sense to you, absolutely ask those questions.
I just feel this is becoming more of a legally fair process and more of an involvement. We're just trusting them 100% to shape our school rather than us have a say.
I hear that, but that's, I mean, part why we're looking at 6 different options. So I think that the thought is, it may or may not, we haven't gone through all the options, but I think that the thought was when we hired this group, we asked them explicitly, would you please give us as many options as possible, because we may not have the budget to do what you think is best. So that's part of why we felt good about going with this group, was because they work with a ton of schools, they work with a ton of different budgets, and they also, their pay was not affected by what they gave us, and so it didn't feel irresponsible. So I mean, I think we felt like in hiring these people, we are, yes, trusting that the numbers they give us are correct. Right, but I also think the facilities committee should weigh in and say, have you looked at this? I think that's healthy and good.
Since the last time it was spoken.
Yes, we have a very short timeline, is I think part of the issue.
I think it's worth mentioning also that one of the things that we heard over and over when we vetted EMC before we went forward with them, when we talked with superintendents and facilities managers at a number of other school districts, one of the things we heard over and over was how flexible they are and how they are 100% committed to pivoting to the district's needs, whatever they may be. So similar to you, Josh, the last time I saw the plan was when the boiler, when the tanks were going to be in a different location. So I'm just coming up to speed on the new location as well, and I think, if the proposed new location, we don't know, I don't know, maybe Justin, you know, but maybe there were a number of other places that they considered, which we haven't heard about. But certainly they seem like a company that if we had different ideas or suggestions, that they would look into those. And if what they proposed really doesn't work for our community, they would want to hear that and work with us on it.
I mean, I would say that I would not describe the process as laissez-faire at all. I know they were out here at least 3 times in Arizona Energy. They looked at all manner of locations on the other side, including to the side of the tennis courts. And I mean, we're talking about licensed engineers, and then that was their recommendation. So I don't see a reason to doubt why they would do that. And I also,
there's a sense of laissez-faire, meaning like we don't have knowledge of many of that.
I also think that by just, I'm sure to say this, our parking lot issue is pretty serious. I get a lot of comments about it every year, and David was asking me, what is the long-term plan for fixing this? Because he's probably growing weary of, cold patching the end of the driveway. And this gives us a reasonable, justifiable means to have the parking lot resurfaced and wrap it into a 17-year lease. The hit in the public is actually really gentle over time, instead over time, so that, so it doesn't take up a massive chunk of it.
But this is also taken in consideration that are not only the surface, but the size. We are deficient in size of parking.
That is not been taken into account, so.
That I would 100% say needs to, we have any event and we can't do anything, because everybody's parked on the road, because we don't have, even if there's an event going on at the ball field.
So I think what I'm kind of want to do though is, what are the options that we have here?
Yeah.
But then if we want to be able to expand to say, okay, if we're choosing one of the options, although I think all of them include parking lot paving, then we could also ask them, what would that look like to expand the parking lot if we need to?
Right.
But
So what we need to keep in mind, is this is an energy savings company. It's a specific tax exempt lease for energy savings related things. And so,
the
yes.
parking lot itself,
Redoing the parking lot because we've had to tear it up. But we don't want to press that too much. Does that make sense? Like, we don't want to press the bounds of where, like, what this financing is supposed to
So
be.
just ready to put a ban in this way. Not a lot.
Sure, well,
I mean, I think we should note it,
Yeah,
of like,
no.
if that's an option, we can ask them about it. If they say that's not in the scope, then we'll know, but I think
I would say that.
the boiler is our main heating, cooling. I think is our main objective for the town to have the place for heating, and then now that we're getting hotter summers, if we need a cooling place, what can we afford for these different options? And then I think we need to take note that whatever we decide tonight, we need to make sure that the facilities committee has a follow-up meeting to know what are those plans that EMC has pulled together to make sure that they have all the same information.
So this covers the boiler room, parking lot, driveway paving, the excavation connected to that parking lot work and the sinking of the tanks. That would also include replacing the culvert at the end of the driveway. I called the state. We're years out from the time they would do it, and that's largely what's causing the deterioration of the driveway at the end. The interior fit out, those are two, because they're here, they can fit this in and would be involved with some of the lights savings. An interior, we would get an extension on our behavioral room, and we'd be able to cut up on the upstairs rooms to create an office for a social worker. Lighting, the lighting changes would be, to swap out our fixtures for new fixtures and new controls. There's, some significant savings over time, if we add. New, more efficient lighting with dimmer switches. So we can save significant money with electricity. This includes VRF heat pumps for the entire school. And that, is something that we discussed within the facilities and maintenance committee. That as something we can bang about, that would provide both heat and local heat and, cooling. So that's the most expensive option because, that's a significant part of that cost with the VRFs. The building envelope, there are a number of places where we have insufficient insulation. And so that's included in this price in the Jace 9000 with the boilers. That would be replacing our antiquated computer system that controls even all of the mechanisms, all of the. I think the Jace family is one of the reasons we have those, $8,000 in water costs there. So that's option one.
Can I ask a quick question? Where it says the fourth line down, the savings construction plus year one, is that when it talks about $34,000 in savings and then it kind of decreases for each one of the other ones, but
That's right.
is that per year savings or over the life of the 17-year?
My understanding is, that is savings year one. And I don't know that they calculated over the life. Of
Okay.
the thing.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure what that
That's a good question.
time frame was of savings.
I will ask,
Okay.
would you mind looking at that for me?
I just made it.
Yeah,
I also, while that jumps back into those numbers, is this annual budget change, is that the equivalent of an escalator clause within the contract, or what does that mean?
He added that, because he felt like, he didn't have this in previous charts that he's shown us. He added that to say that would be the impact in year one. Like,
Of our
it's not an
budget?
escalator, as far as I understand, yeah. So in year one, it'd be a 2.27% increase over our current budget.
To the school's budget or
Correct.
to?
School's budget. School's budget. Yeah, just the school's budget.
And is there an escalated clause within this contract also, or just the interest rate?
I don't think there's an escalated cost.
Any questions? No.
would the escalator clause be something though that would be part of what the banking loan is from or from the actual EMC contract? That would be from the lease to own contract, wouldn't it?
I
Potentially.
can answer that. I would just say, I've never seen any language that indicated any kind of escalator clause. Related
we'll
to
make
what,
that
though? Related to,
I only ask because a lot of the multi-year contracts that the select board deals with, you're never paying just X number of dollars annually because of cost of living increases, inflation, et cetera. So there's typically an escalator clause within the contract somewhere, which is at the bottom line.
this is not necessarily a multi-year, so you're talking about with the SO EMC. You're asking about.
This is the funding of the,
EMC is their full profit is just 10% of the cost of the entire project. And that's it. And I think they would
Last
consider
over the 17 years.
flat. So I don't believe they would, that's my understanding anyway. This is, my also my understanding with NASA is, it's just that it's 1 year. We could ask them to come back and do another project. Once we've hired them once, we don't have to go through the whole process of vetting like we did before. So,
Right, but you're still paying all of this, you're paying.
which is a separate contract though. So the contract that we entered in for EMC is just for them to do the oversight, the engineering, the kind of getting all of our contracts with us, hiring maritime farms and kind of overseeing the project.
and
But
guarantee,
then they're gonna help us with the banking piece of it, but it's a separate loan that we would enter into. Well, it's not a loan, it's a lease to own agreement that we would enter into with the bank. So they're two separate contracts that would happen.
The second that one, we would enter in after consulting with Drummond and Woodsum, and they would be our attorneys of record for setting up the loan agreement. The estimate here of 4.9% is, I think, the best estimate currently if we move forward in the next month or two. But we won't know what those numbers are until we go out to bid with the banks. So they do a number of projects around the state. They're probably doing 10 right now. So the numbers they're putting out there are what they're getting, they're hearing are the rates that are coming back to school systems.
So option 2 is similar, and the language is the same. So as you go down, it is the same, all the way until you get to, the heat pumps whole school. So the only difference between option 1 and option 2 is that I asked him to parse out just the heat pumps for this first one. That would be just an effort to see what is possible. See what evaluations.
So that's a difference of around $500,000. The whole school versus,
Yeah, 475, 472.
yeah.
But this, if we say VRF, that's all heat pumps, just,
New heat pumps, no effect, yeah.
but no change in scope, utilizing the ventilation system.
We would still use our traditional air handlers. That's right. None of these have an option for replacing our air handlers. That's a very expensive proposition.
Or operating.
Right, exactly. So option 3 is similar. If you go down, you can see that the language is the same all the way through. Lighting, fixtures, controls, building envelope, and the only difference is that this is VRF on the second floor, which for me, I would say is more critical than VRF systems on the first floor.
Option which?
Option 3,
Option 3, yeah, I mean, my classroom's upstairs,
yeah,
and I can tell you if I go up there right now, it's probably 90 degrees.
Well, heat rising.
Yeah, exactly.
people pay to go to saunas. So.
In Finland.
Right. So option 1 is all in, like all of the things that we prioritized or that was put on their radar. Option 2 is the same, only VRF on the first floor instead of the whole school. Option 3 is VRF on the second floor instead of the whole school. And then option 4 is similar, again, all the way down to, let me see, lighting fixtures control, VRF just in the gym. All right, VRF just in the gym for that one. And then, sorry, I made this all completely realized. Option 5 is similar except,
No VRF.
no VRF at all. And the last one, option 6, is no VRF. And the other difference is that when you look at the lighting, they use a less efficient, cheaper system, which are bar kits only and no control signature switches. So I can review really quickly. All in. First floor VRF, second floor VRF, VRF in the gym. This one, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember now, no VRF, and this is no VRF and less efficient lighting fixtures and controls.
If we made no decision tonight, what does that look like in terms of the timeline?
I suspect we're getting close to when, for them to get this work done before school started.
So essentially, if we were to make a decision tonight, they're saying they would be able to bury the tanks and get repaving done before school starts.
Essentially,
That's less than a month.
the reason, just for clarity.
Yeah.
For clarity's sake, the reason we needed the facilities and maintenance committee first was not to intentionally avoid people or avoid having a conversation, it was just the timeline. Straight up, they got the numbers, they got the bids, they got them to us, we needed to turn it around, because yes, we can talk about pavement and we can talk about excavation and sinking tanks, but really one of the things they need to do is order those boilers. They need to order those because they don't turn around on time. So they were hoping to have substantial approval very soon. So if we don't have it today, I'm hopeful we have it very, very soon thereafter. I mean,
No, I was just trying to better understand for myself the implications of the different decisions. Like if we didn't make the decision tonight and they weren't able to get this done before the school year, does that then mean we would be looking at next summer? Do we have the contract long enough that we could do this next summer? And, or because of the boiler situation that we're in, trying to go on a hope and a prayer that the boiler will last for another year or another winter, is that I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting any of the factors of everything, because this is it is a huge, I mean, we're meeting for 330,000 tonight as our clerical error, and then we're kind of looking at, well, are we going to be able to get this or not? And then I also want to be able to do infrastructure for our school, because I think this benefits all of the community of having a comfortable school for the students, and for when we have meetings during the summer and it's 90 degrees in the cafeteria, it would be lovely to actually be comfortable and not have fans having to drown everybody out. But I also know we're making a commitment for 17 years of a 2% increase, or potentially, depends on, what it was that's decided. So I just want to make sure that I have in my head, what are all the pros and cons of deciding, not deciding? What does that mean for the school if we didn't do something? And then,
Tracy, I just dug around to find Tom's phone number. Do you mind if I call him and see if he'll log into this?
Yeah.
sure,
Okay, so I'll just step out for 2 seconds.
I'm exceedingly uncomfortable with the idea of going into this winter on 121 and 22-year-old boiler.
which is similar with what we did last year. Like we were constantly kind of waiting, and then we did have a period where it wasn't working, and we
Yeah.
had a few days of
Yeah,
it being in the 40s or 50s, whatever I don't know what the degrees were, but it was not pleasant. It didn't sound like.
it's not so. No, I know you were gonna say.
Yeah, go ahead.
So obviously, I guess your timeline is yesterday.
Mhm.
It does sound bad.
Is this the first time everybody's seen this information? Out of your office and maybe somebody else's office? Or is everybody?
The actual presentation of what the actual data is. We had a mock. This is what it could be potentially based on what we have for loose information, but this is the first time we're seeing the actual concrete based on doing a thorough review, reaching out to potential vendors.
I personally, in my experience with the select board, I don't see how you can make a justified decision here tonight. You need time to absorb this. There are questions that haven't been answered. You have one member that's just getting up to speed. I do not feel that you can make I don't see there's any right decision here as far as money wise, but everything costs money. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about the meeting tonight for approval for the mistake that was made. I've been telling you that all along. I don't know. This needs to be fully vetted, digested, and you need to sit at the table with more people than just the committee. Ultimately, you're gonna make the decision. But you need to have people who are experienced in the fields talking to you. I would be hard pressed to see if they could, if you engage them tonight, I think you would be hard pressed to get you might get the boilers done without kids around before before the start of school. The parking lot, the burying tanks, why propane? Is that what we have here now? I don't think so.
That's
What was that?
It's oil.
Okay, these are the types of questions that people like me have.
It's far more efficient, so I
It
know the
may be
answer.
efficient to look at the problems that have come with buried propane lines and tanks. Okay, someone like me thinks about stuff like that, and those are questions that I ask. I know you don't wanna hear this tonight,
Oh,
you
no,
guys
no.
don't make a decision, but
I have some answers. for
this is last minute. To me, this is last minute. It's last minute. That's how we make mistakes.
Totally reasonable, the details matter. There was, if you wanna go back though, I think it was the main meeting that you guys had, I attended. There, if you wanna go back and watch their meeting, this gentleman gave a really great presentation if you want more information. I'm not saying that it will answer all your questions, but if you're looking for some more information.
I watched that YouTube video though, but the PowerPoint presentation isn't attached to it, you can't see it. And so you literally only see the conversation you guys are having, being like, this sounds like a really great idea.
Yeah.
And then you had a meeting 3
Is he
days
able to
later
join or no?
approve the contract.
I left a message.
So, yeah,
So,
And
Yeah, and I-
there was not anywhere near detail in this conference.
yeah, and I tried to get Kate to send on the additional information.
You didn't get it?
I got it. Yeah.
So, I'm really sorry, and I do not want any of you to feel that I'm the Debbie Downer every time I come to a meeting. But I have questions, people ask me questions here in town,
Mhm.
people who pay the money to have the school here. I need to be able to answer that with a straight face. And I get more questions than about the school, but you know, questions.
Fine, though. I would love for those to come to us too, though, so that we know and can also be able to
We
directly
are
answer, so you're not having to be the mouthpiece for
Constantly
the committee
saying,
that we're, you know,
we're
responsible.
constantly saying, attend our
Oh,
meetings. We have the same problem. People find the avenue that makes it, that's the easiest for them to talk to.
I think that's accurate, I don't think, questions you have, though, go ahead and ask some of them now if you have them, so they actually have some answers.
You have said, I can ask that question exactly,
Some of
but
them,
you don't make a decision tonight.
Yeah.
You
Look,
have a
Right,
question.
but about
I would like to
propane,
have some detailed breakdown of all of these and say, okay, it's nice to see the option of projected cost.
Right.
Look, what is the projected cost? You know, culvert replacement, technically that's the state's problem, not ours. 33 feet from the center line is the state's problem, whether they're out 2 years or whatever.
I mean, that's great, but the reality is that I've already called the state and it's not gonna get done in time for us to get it done. So we can have that on it, or we wait for 2 years.
Well, yeah, sorry, Tracy. Can I speak? First, I feel like you guys should be applauded for tackling something that unfortunately has been ignored since the school first opened its door. Nobody tackled creating and managing a capital improvement program or maintenance program. You didn't have that kind of leadership. You didn't have your previous iterations of your committee didn't have that, and so you're trying to do 2 decades of work in a very short period of time to do what is very necessary, which is address this huge facility that, you know, at 20-something years old, things are going wrong and have been going, unfortunately, have been going ever since I've been on the select board. I can't tell you how many failures we've had to write emergency checks for, you know, there's like $35,000, you want all of this, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like that needs to be said first. But you can't undo 20+ years of not having a program, not having a decision-making paradigm to work with, step into and adjust. And so, then I'll speak from my position on the select board, and the select board doesn't do schools. And we operate by very different rules than you operate. We are, I don't wanna say burdened or encumbered by, but we are burdened and encumbered by much more process.
Right.
In making a decision like this, and your group has the benefit because of the way the law is written. There's a loop, but I'm gonna call it loophole, that you can do this without public process, without public input. We would have had to have had a dozen meetings to get to this point. But I think you're hearing some of the frustrations from people who should theoretically be in the loop. The facilities committee shouldn't be sitting in a meeting like this with as many questions as they have. And that's not a comment on anyone in this room's effort that they put in, or how much knowledge or conversations you have internally, but the optics of the ripple effect of how this stone will be cast into a pool of water looks. And so, I hear your frustration, and we're not new to these kinds of conversations. Like, this needed to happen yesterday with similar amounts of money. However, it matters how you get to it. It's worth doing right, and it's worth doing it thoughtfully. And sometimes that means having more meetings, sometimes it means pumping the brakes, sometimes it means not getting that ideal deadline, but you figure it out and you work with it. And we're talking about a lot of money, and I have so many questions. Just again, you're essentially proposing an entirely additional budget that you haven't worked with before. I mean, this is a whole budget in and of itself. And you're talking about approving it in a couple of meetings, and you think about your budget with the spreadsheets and the lines, and I'm sorry, it's ill timed with the meeting we're about to have, but I'm saying that you guys go through things line by line by line, and you break things apart. We break things apart. How many reams of paper are we buying? It really does get into the conversations of like, do we need to spend that $5 or not? And so having big baskets like this to get closer to the answer is really important. But from my perspective as being on board that is heavily process oriented, and also as a taxpayer, there's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of not answered questions. And so not to speak for you, but we've been in your seat, literally have been in your seat over and over and over again, and I don't know.
Can you do it
So-
quickly? And I'm only saying that because I know we have 20
Yeah,
minutes
yeah.
until our next meeting. Not to, but I also I think
Yeah, I wouldn't ever want to say you should do this, but
yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
but there's a big.
Both of them. I think for myself, I do appreciate what you guys are saying, and that's some of why I'm asking the questions of like, what if we didn't make a decision tonight? Like, what does that look like? But you go ahead.
Yeah, so the loophole that she referenced, and it's a loophole as far as I consider it, and I know our taxpayers, if you look at Camden did something similar just last year for the CSD, with going outside of, they got turned down on a budget request, they went outside, they did a lease purchase agreement on stuff, and people were looking, but they went around the taxpayers. That's what there's newspaper articles about it, etc. You're a school committee that's had a budget turned down last year. You had a mistake this year we're having to deal with, and now you're gonna we went around the taxpayers
I'm not saying it that way. I know that's how you're saying it right now, but I just,
I'm
kind of on the record right now, and so it feels a little inflammatory to,
Yeah.
but
I'm
it's
not
not,
saying it's untrue.
I get what you're saying though,
That
yes.
is
But
what
people are already talking about it around town that way. And that's the way when it happened in Kansas, that's the way that article was in the paper about it.
Okay,
So that's the way, so it's scary to me. I love our school, I love the things we're trying to do. I love a lot of what I see in here. I'm scared for the ability to. You do this, and the taxpayers go, take that out of next year's budget, have fun. I don't know how you're gonna respond to that, because that is, if it doesn't go in front of the taxpayers, that's my concern.
yeah. I think that some of trying to say this very diplomatically. I was surprised that the facilities committee hadn't already kind of like been part of being on board with this ahead of time. And I know that it was timeline so it's not, I'm again, not trying to say cast out or cash blame or shoulda, coulda, woulda has always happened. And committing to a percentage increase on something, if we don't have community buy-in yet, I am very worried about. But I also know going another year on a boiler that will likely be putting Band-Aids on it again. Like, those are essentially the two biggest things that are weighing on me. Do we go through another year where we'll likely be paying? I don't know, the last year we went through a winter without a boiler repair of some sort to comment of. And so if we know we're already gonna be putting money into that, does it make more fiscal sense to have it just be the basic bare bone option one? Start with that. So we at least know we're addressing our boiler with as least impact to the taxpayer as possible. And we can revisit other things, or do we just say we need to have more time to get community buy-in before we make any decision, knowing that we're likely still gonna have to have some type of repair bill for the boiler? Because we have gone 20 years. I mean, it's not like the building is literally crumbling around us. We are looking at capital investments, and I don't know, I guess this is kind of where I don't want to be a wet blanket on it all, because I do know this is needed for the school. But yeah,
What
I don't
are,
know what you think.
I know, I agree with you. I think you framed the problem correctly. We don't want our kids to go without heat this winter just because we had to table this. So I do think though, what is your availability, Justin, and Tom's perhaps to answer questions to meet with the facilities committee, which I think would be the ideal next step if we can make that work.
I mean, I think Tom will make himself available. So, for whenever we can pull together a meeting, and everything that's up here is, there's nothing unreasonable about any of these. I totally agree. We sort of inherited urgency, right? And so in response to that, we've acted really, really quickly as like sort of as possible to put together a proposition like this. And so, yes, probably going to the public would be ideal, but I mean, that's a referendum, right? I mean, what candidate was put it to, not going around the taxpayers means letting them vote on it, right? So it should be.
Well, I think it's simple as just having a public hearing, like actively inviting, kind of.
Even workshopping the idea to say these are the presentations as a workshop around this particular, like we do with our budget cycle.
Yeah, I ultimately, that is the process I would prefer than this, because let's just say this is the rush. I'm not completely comfortable with it. I've never been comfortable with rushing through this much. But it seemed like the situation did there, right? So what I worry about is that, so if we can pull together a form relatively quickly, maybe we can do some LCS, but we need a timeline from Tom. I know it's incredibly short, like unbelievable short. And I know the boiler repairs are one thing, but if that boiler goes down, it's auto repair. But that other one was safe. So we shut it down because it's leaking gases.
Right.
It was not repairable. I think the cost of this is something, but the cost of renting, for instance, like portable heating for a whole year is astronomical, right, before winter. And then we'd be spending a lot of money with capital improvement. So I think about all these things and sort
I
of.
do think there are other options, potentially, whether that be removing one of the dead boilers and putting in a single one. Whilst you have full functional, they'd be old.
I think.
Can I just hold on just a sec, because we have 14 minutes now and Anne has something. Yeah, I just want to make sure.
To ask about the availability of a representative from the
That's the
company
Tom that they're referencing.
to be at this meeting that's put together to answer those questions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No one here
I left them a message a few minutes ago, but clearly, he's probably at the
Agreed.
clock at this
Needs
point.
to be.
Like that, I think
No
I was
question.
at that school committee meeting when he made that big
Mhm.
presentation. And it was very informative and he answered. all
And maybe
kinds of
we do it
questions.
via Zoom so that then he can share more easily through
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
Zoom meeting.
the
the-
owl piece of the Zoom meeting is a little complicated, but we can sort it out.
Figure it out,
So,
yeah.
And make it the public aware that they can come and listen and ask questions.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to get out messaging about it to let them know have we kind of, as a committee, because I think our agenda item is whether we want to enter into a contract or not. Is that something? Like, I feel like I want to kind of make that decision before we decide on, if we've decided, no, we don't feel comfortable entering into a contract tonight, then we can kind of talk about the next steps of like, what are we going to do, the timeline, who are we going to involve, how are we going to get the word out? But if you guys are feeling comfortable with it, then I know my piece on it, but I don't want to say like, oh, that's the board's decision now. Like, if you guys have other thoughts on the contract, I don't necessarily, I want to make sure that we kind of talk that through, whether you want to engage in a contract tonight or no.
No, I think we should table it and try to get some more public input.
Does that work for you guys too, or you?
Yeah, I agree with Kirsten, and I wonder if for that meeting, if we could, it looks to me like numbers 1 through 5 on any of these options are the ones that involve the boiler specifically, correct?
Well,
I didn't know if this.
I think all of them do.
culvert was,
culvert is, you can't.
had to be or not.
If we're repairing the parking lot, we're getting it.
So anyway, whichever numbers, I wonder if we could get for that meeting, just the very bare bones of what is absolutely necessary for keeping the building, as well as I think it was Josh that was asking, I was curious as well, the numbers per line, right? Not just the overall number, but how much does the parking lot paving cost? What's that estimate,
And I think it did have it on the spreadsheet when he gave the mock presentation, he was like checking off
Yeah.
different options. And it had costs associated with each one of them, so I think it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so that would. Yeah.
To go along, not only the budget, but also. I know that it's a problem, but timeline are helpful to say. It's another look at the whole week, that's definitively not gonna happen.
Since we are low on time. Would we, I know, but I also want to get in there before it's 10 o'clock. All right, so we'll table the contract decision to a future meeting. Anybody that has questions, ideas, things that you would want to be addressed by this workshop, or if you're hearing questions, whatever it may be, if you could email Justin,
Yeah,
Sean.
yeah.
And that way then we can get them to Tom to make sure he can answer all of those and get us the information ahead of time, so that then we don't have to do the, let me get back to you. If you already know the question's there, then he should be able to prepare ahead of time. And then we will work on figuring out when Tom's available, and we can get out enough notice for the community, and we're all available.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Would you prefer to have one meeting where the kinds of questions that came up tonight are also being asked by community members, or is there value to meeting with the facilities committee and the selectmen first and then having a larger forum?
The facilities committee
First.
was one meeting and.
Yeah.
Public hearing. That one.
That's what I had as a note, was looking for, so it's gonna stay first, so they have an opportunity to make a recommendation, and then we can bring.
Community.
The question would be, what are we bringing to the public forum? Are we bringing the gamut? Or are we bringing just the facilities maintenance committee?
We can hash those out in a meeting.
Yeah, making sure that the harm, making sure minutes get written, so like there's that record.
I am remembering, if there wasn't. Yeah. Couldn't collaborate, not be a lot.
Anything else?
I just wanted to say again, mirror what Lily said, thank you to the top issue.
Appreciate you guys coming and for speaking up, because
Well, same.
that's exactly it. Like, we want this to be a place that the community can come to, that our kids are comfortable learning in, and that the staff feel like they're not in a rundown workplace. Yeah, I do feel like we're all at the same end goal that we have, and so I do appreciate that you guys came and gave your feedback. I really do. And for all of you guys to meet before the next meeting. Who didn't love the meeting? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll say it.
Excellent. So Kirsten made a motion, Amy seconded. All in favor of adjourning? All four.
It's fun.
Thank you, guys.
I think Amy's suggestion was you're treating it instead of coming into, like, okay, 1 through 5, or 1 through like.
What reads out?
Yeah, because like, I can't see anyone being like, oh no, it's a terrible idea to replace the
Boiler?
failing boiler.
Right, so
But maybe
ultimately,
not, like, would you also like an eyebrow?
it's right, I mean,